Okay, so a very warm good evening to all the IPS House Zone members, and it's my honor and pleasure to welcome our President Dr. Ramakrishnan sir, and our Secretary Dr. Suresh Kumar sir, and our President-elect Dr. Ramanan Yerad for this official monthly Wiser meeting of the IPS House Zone of the May month. So last meeting we were not able to conduct due to the IPS House Zone CME program, so which was held in a hybrid mode, and which had gone to a very successful way with a very good number of speakers and attendees. And I would like to thank all the organizers of the IPS South Zone Nizamabad committees. And today we are going to have a topic on the sexual related disorders. So we have our chairperson, Dr. Professor T.S. Satyanarayana Rao, who is a professor and Department of Psychiatry at JSS Medical College, Mysore. So he is a well-known person in the Indian Psychiatric Society. He is currently the Honorary General Secretary of the Indian Psychiatric Society, editor of Journal of Psychosocial Health, formerly President, Indian Association of Geriatric Mental Health, and formerly editor, Indian Journal of Psychiatry. And he is also the Secretary of Psychiatry and Human Sexuality for the WPA section, and editor of Chairman and Publication of SASAN, affiliated to ISSM. And he has more than 315 publications of research and review papers, and 24 books has been published under his guidance. And he's a recipient of many awards and orations, including the Marfetia, and currently he is the president of Karnataka Sexual Academic Sciences. And we also have two elegant speakers, one senior speaker, Professor Dr. Kota Suresh Kumar, who is going to talk about the male sexual underperformance, understanding the reason behind, and the young speaker, Dr. Vamshi Krishna, who will be talking about the male sexual underperformance approach to management. So it's an honor and pleasure to welcome all the participants of this monthly IPS South Zone seminar. And I would like to just hand over the mic to the President for his presidential remarks. Welcome you all, sir. Welcome.
Good evening to one of you. So, amidst this COVID pandemic and all frontline workers like doctors, we dedicate this meeting to the souls who have lost their lives. And all of us are under extreme pressure. Even psychiatrists are under extreme pressure. Amongst this, we are able to conduct this Wiser program for a change. Maybe you are all worked up. Maybe this will be a change in activity. That will be one thing. And I thank the office bearers of IPS South Zone, Vice President Dr. Yerad, Secretary Suresh Kumar, Treasurer Gangaram, and Editor Dr. Shahul Amin, and all, for helping us out with the successful continuation of the Wiser program. The credit goes to Dr. Aravind and his team for the meticulous choosing of speakers and chairpersons. And I hope this goes for years together, so that the young psychiatrists as well as senior psychiatrists join in a platform and give their wisdom. That is the way we have planned. And I'm very happy that today Professor Rao is the chairperson, the Vatsayana of our IPS, what I would say. And here the remarkable thing is, for 10 years, he had been the editor of IPS journal. See, that is very remarkable. I know how tough the job is. After that, he has again taken up a much stiffer job of secretary. I don't know how he has got this energy even at the age. And also, he is always smiling. That is another plus mark of his personality. So that's why I think his laughter and this thing is the hallmark of his success, I would say. And I will say that this sexuality, the topic of sexuality, again, is not ruled by psychiatrists as such now in India, and only by people like Rao and Suresh Kumar and all. Very few are actively practicing sexual medicine. I think this lecture will give an eye-opener and a bird's eye view about sexual medicine. And I hope and I feel that we psychiatrists should take the sexual medicine, sexual treatment of sexual disorders from the native practitioners. That is the one thing. All this Legium, Siddha Regium, and all is ruling the see. And every time you come with a message, immediate sexual need, come, pay the 10,000 rupees, you will get the capsule. Something is coming in our WhatsApps. How I don't know how they get the numbers and other things. So this practice, unless we take over, it is difficult to stop spurious medicines. So that is the message for all the practicing psychiatrists and postgraduates. And it is time that Professor Rao take over the stage and give the inaugural remarks, followed by Dr. Suresh Kumar, who is known as Dr. Rao has told, he is again a good practitioner and a specialist in sexual medicine. And we have got a junior psychiatrist who is Dr. Vamsi, who is going to talk on the practical approaches. Welcome you all. I thank all the participants for your enthusiastic participation. Over to Professor Rao, sir.
Sir, before Rao, sir, I just want to make a small note, sir. Sir, we have been honoring all the speakers and the chairpersons, but due to the lockdown, we were not able to give the shield. So, within a week or a fortnight, you'll be receiving a shield of our IPS South Zone of our from the President IPS South Zone, Dr. Ramakrishnan, sir. So we have requested the Sun Pharma to hand over the memento personally to all the speakers, both the speakers and the chairperson. So it's an honor, sir. So we missed this, but take it as an honor that we are going to do in another 1 or 2 weeks, sir. Thank you. So please, Rao, sir, please.
Good evening, and I'm extremely happy that I am part of this particular program. Dr. Ramakrishna and his team is doing an extremely great job, and the enthusiasm and interest with which they are carrying out all the activities, even during this time of pandemic. Not only any particular area, almost majority of the aspects related to mental health, in fact, it is getting the due attention. At the outset, I can definitely congratulate without any hesitation that among all the zones, South Zone consistently has been doing extremely great job. And as part of Indian Psychiatric Society national body, I must place on record this particular congratulatory wishes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
One aspect. Of course, you made very, very important and pertinent points before I introduce the speakers. One important aspect is, see, we have attended a lot of programs by a lot of specialities, more particularly concerning sexual issues. But I strongly believe, I don't think there is any speciality which can look at the sexual problems from all the angles which is actually necessary. It's a multi-speciality and integrated approach necessary, and concentration liaison aspects are bound to be there. But all said and done, anybody who can look at this particular problem from biology, psychology, and social aspects, that biopsychosocial approach, what we talk about, that can be done only by psychiatrists. Because we are not showing interest, in fact, wherever vacuum is there, somebody else will come and occupy. So an issue as simple as that. I'm also extremely happy that a lot of budding people, particularly psychiatrists, are taking up this particular field. Suresh Kumar, I don't have to talk much at all, but Vamsi, in fact, I still remember meeting him in many programs, and he himself showing a lot of interest in aspects of management of sexual issues. Of course, when I looked at the title, the underperformance. See, even if you ask my wife, she will tell you are performing not as much as what you were doing earlier. You got the point? So that underperformance from whose angle, what we will be talking about. So what I assume is it is one of the very broad area. And this may be like an introduction necessary that a bird's eye view of issues. And among all the things, say men and women and men's problems are very important, because each and every clinic, these are the people. I always believe anybody whom you meet, they are sexual problem cases. yesterday, today, or tomorrow. You got the point? And day in, day out, we are writing medicines which actually doubles the existing problems. What it means is we have a great role and responsibility in this particular regard. I'm eagerly looking forward to the presentations and to very briefly introduce the speakers. Of course, Kota Suresh Kumar doesn't need introduction, and both at state, zone, and the national level, he's making the mark, and the pressure with which he speaks, the entertainment quotient, what he can introduce, and the capacity to take the people along, it is something extraordinary. I had the opportunity to host him at Mysore and Mandya, and I very clearly remember he visiting my library. I have a library of around 13,000+ books, of which around almost 6,000 books are on sexual medicine. So he was very appreciative of it. He did his MBBS, in fact, born in 1955, just 1 year later. So he is my younger brother. MBBS from Rangaraya College, DPM from Nimhans, and MD from Punjab. He worked as professor of medical college and psychiatry at NRA Medical College, Chinnakakani, for about 5 years. And his involvement in studies and performance, of course, inverted comma, performance, because he's the right person to be chosen. Gold medalist in forensic medicine and first rank from Punjab University in post-graduation. They only speak about the dedication with which he takes up any job. Has been a writer, orator, and involved in the clinical and service activities for a long time. And hails from Guntur. Not only this, in fact, one of the best thing about it is we people, we somehow shun other specialities. Has been very actively involved with the Guntur IMA. So also in fact, the Dean of AP State Medical Specialities and the Chairman of Committee for Shankar Netralaya, the Ethics Committee, and many other such things, including the National IAPP body. So he's a multifaceted personality, and it will be, in fact, a pleasure listening to him. I think the speakers are going to give enough time for discussion later, and Vamshi, I'll introduce him in the once this Dr. Kota Suresh Kumar's presentation is over. Suresh Kumar, please.
Dr. Suresh Kumar.
I think it's trying to get connection.
Unmute yourself.
Suresh Kumar?
It looks like he got disconnected. Sir.
Disconnected. I think you have to maintain this sequence also. Otherwise, the management issues become a little complicated.
Yeah, previously he was talking. Ansari, call him over phone and ask him to rejoin.
I think all of us have to work to see that technology becomes convenient for us.
There was a technical problem. There was some technical problem.
Suresh sir, there should not be a technical problem in sexual function.
The net connection was there. Now I had to connect through phone, sir.
Yes, sir.
And of course, today I'll straight come into the topic because there is already 5 minutes late from my side. The sexuality and sexual dysfunctions, mainly focusing on erectile dysfunction and PME. As S.S. Rao sir said, it is regarding the underperformance. I'm not talking much about it. It is mainly concentrating on ED and PME because we have only half an hour time to present, and that is not possible now. So I will be mainly concentrating on erectile dysfunction, which is a common mistake. Sexuality is determined by anatomy, physiology, psychology, the culture in which one lives and one's relationships with others, and developmental experiences throughout the life cycle. It includes perception of being male or female and all those thoughts, feelings and behaviors connected with sexual gratification and reproduction, and attraction of one person to another. So, coming straight to the subject of erectile dysfunction, before going for erectile dysfunction, what are the nervous connections, endocrinological things that are implicated in the sexual problem? Penile tusmescence is mainly by innervation of sex organs, autonomic nervous system. Penile tusmescence is by parasympathetic exogenic corrections S2, S3, and S4, which causes relaxation of cover nozzle smooth muscle by ejaculation for smooth release of nitric oxide. It also causes clitoral enlargement will be by parasympathetic stimulation in the female, and sympathetic system is responsible for ejaculation, smooth muscle contraction of vagina during orgasm. Autonomic nervous system is influenced by external stimuli like stress and drugs, while internal stimuli like hypothalamus, limbic, and cortical stimuli are present. And endocrinologically, testosterone, which is implicated, secreted in a pulsatile manner, libido in factors influencing these levels: stress, sleep, mood, lifestyle, and highest levels, it is in the morning, lowest levels in the evening. That's why when we ask for a testosterone test, we should always ask at a particular time and preferably in the morning when it is highest. And the normal concentration of testosterone is 270 to 1100 milligrams per 100 ml. Testosterone plus estrogen combination is useful in treating headache, depression, and reduced libido. Brain and sexual behavior. Limbic system is the center for mainly sexual functioning, while hippocampus is responsible for regulation and release of gonadotropins, and increase in dopamine can result in increase in libido, and serotonin has inhibitory effect on sexual function. Psychosexuality. It is used because personality development and functioning are affected by sexuality. There are vocabulary which we have to understand mainly for the postgraduate students. The psychosexual factors, sexual identity, that is a pattern of one's biological sexual characteristics. What is this biological sexual characteristics is sexual identity. Gender identity is a person's sense of maleness or femaleness, how he feels, how he sense of maleness or femaleness. And by the age of 2 to 3 years, everyone has a firm conviction about their gender. The children have a firm conviction. By the age of 3 years, they have a firm conviction about their gender. And sexual orientation describes the object of person's sexual impulses as hetero or homo or even bisexual. So, sexual learning and sexual behavior. This starts from childhood. The learning begins in childhood through parent-child interaction, meeting infant needs, cuddling, reinforcement, discouragement of gender-associated activities. Genital stimulation is quite normal till the baby is 15 to 19 months or even 2 years. Self-genital stimulation is quite normal, and some parents become very much apprehensive on observing the children of this age stimulating their genitals, but that is quite normal. And whenever we talk sex, we have to talk about Dr. T.S.S. Rao sir and then Master Johnson. And Master Johnson observed physiological process involving increase in vasocongestion and myotonia transmissions and subsequent release of the vascular activity and muscle tone resulting in the orgasm due to detumescence. DSM defines the four-phase response cycle, which we have all gone through in the physiology: desire stage, excitement stage, orgasm stage, and resolution stage. We have to go through this to understand the erectile dysfunction and other sexual problems. The desire phase is mainly ours, that means psychiatrist's purview. It is mainly fundamental concern with motivation, drives, and the personality characterized by sexual fantasies and desire to have sexual activity. Excitement phase is brought about by, again, psychological stimulation, whether it is a fantasy or presence of a love object, and then physiological stimulation by stroking or kissing, which consists of subjective sense of pleasure. And in excitement phase, changes in male or penile transmissions leading to erection, and testes increase in size and elevate. While in changes in female, breasts increase in size, vaginal lubrication, clitoris becomes turgid and elevates, labia minora becomes thick, vagina becomes a barrel-shaped organismic platform and becomes bright red, and nipples of both sexes elevate, voluntary contraction of large muscles occur, heart rate, respiratory rate, blood pressure increases, and heightened excitement lasts for 30 seconds to several minutes in the excitement phase. In the orgasmic phase, there is a peaking sexual pleasure with release of sexual tension and rhythmic contraction of perineal muscles and pelvic reproductive organs. Subjective sense of ejaculatory inevitability triggers man's orgasm, forceful emission of sperm follows. Male orgasm is associated with 4 to 5 rhythmic spasms of prostate, seminal vesicles, and urethra, while women's orgasm is characterized by 3 to 15 involuntary contractions of lower third of the vagina and sustained contraction of uterus from fundus to cervix. The voluntary and involuntary movements of large muscle groups, facial grimacing, carpopedal spasm, and blood pressure increases by 20 to 40 millimeters of mercury, both systolic and diastolic, and orgasm lasts for 3 to 25 seconds. It is also described that there is a mild disturbance in the consciousness level, and resolution occurs with disengagement of blood from genitalia. Orgasm occurs and resolution is rapid. If it does not occur, it may take 2 to 6 hours associated with irritability. And after orgasm, men have refractory period lasting for several minutes to hours, while this refractory period doesn't exist in a female. So the refractory period occurs in male, and the duration could be from several minutes to hours depending upon the age and desire phase. Sexual disorder, the moment once we say sexual disorder, we need not think it is a problem of only sexual organs or nervous connection or endocrinological thinking. It can be because of biological problems, intrapsychic conflicts, interpersonal difficulties, combination of all above, and it can be affected by stress. These days, we are seeing a lot of people with sexual problems because of the stress. Software engineers working in a different period, and they are having a lot of sexual problems, especially erectile dysfunction and emotional disorder. And another thing is lack of sexual knowledge, ignorance about sex. It is very sad, very tragic that the country which has given rise to Vapsayana Kama Sutra, a remarkable book about sex few centuries ago. Now we have a lot of people who are very ignorant and who feel afraid of talking about sex. Even patients who come to us regarding sexual problems, they come somewhere in the late period to the OPD. They come and sit in front of us and they murmur. They're a little afraid of talking what their problem is. And you have to hear them and then give a assurance on the this is the person that's direction from that side appears for the intensive care patient, where the broom of the cleaner is seen as a direction. In majority of the cases, in all these cases, important thing in spite of modern investigations, latest investigations, in majority of the cases, history will reveal the mystery. And how do you differentiate psychogenic from organic erectile dysfunction? These two slides are very important for the postgraduate students. When you are taking the history, you have to take all these points to differentiate clinically whether it is psychogenic or organic. Onset of the disorder. In psychogenic, it is always situational and with defined onset. Organic, usually insidious. In psychogenic, there is always majority cases a precipitating event is present. Well, in organic, it is vascular disease, CNS abnormality, penile trauma, or medical drugs which they are using. And erectile function before intromission may be present in psychogenic, usually absent except in patients with pelvic steel phenomena in organic cases. Erectile after intromission, it is variable with different partners, while usually absent in organic. If the person is having sex normal erection with one partner, and if he is having problem of erection with another partner, it is sure that he is having psychogenic erectile dysfunction. So this here with a wife who is a pious lady, he doesn't have sexual erection, but with finished sex, he has a massive erection. And what are the other things which differentiate erection from organic? Nocturnal or morning erections. This is another important thing which we ask the patient whether he has nocturnal or early morning erections, especially those are associated with REM cycle. They might be initially present in psychogenic impotence, but after long standing, even if it is psychogenic, they might disappear. But in organic, they are completely absent or reduced in intensity and frequency. The course of the disorder, in functional, it is episodic or transient loss of erection. Well, in organic, there is always a persistent and progressive erectile dysfunction. And associated ejaculatory disorder, especially these cases of erectile dysfunction, they are usually associated with premature ejaculation. You have to think of functional. If it is a retrograde ejaculatory disturbance, then you have to think of organic. NPT, penile brachial excess, I think my colleague Dr. Vamsi will discuss. And the morning erections is one of the things suggests that erection is good. Psychological factors associated with sexual dysfunction in male. What are the predominant psychological factors? Restrictive upbringing, disturbed family relationship, traumatic early sexual experience. You take at least 20% of the cases come out with history of traumatic early sexual experience, and inadequate sexual information and insecurity in psychosexual role. These are the predisposing factors. While the precipitating factors are unreasonable expectations, random failure, discord in the relationship, dysfunction in the partner, infidelity, and reaction to an organic illness. Especially unreasonable expectations, people who are seeing videos, sexual porn videos, which are edited, which are marked, all these things that doesn't know, especially the young.
Not audible. Not audible.
Yes, sir. Please unmute.
Are the slides visible and audible?
Sir, previous slide you have to go, sir.
Okay. So here I was talking mainly about precipitate. The predisposing factors are restrictive upbringing, disturbed family relationships, traumatic early sexual experience, inadequate sexual information, and insecurity in the psychosexual role. And precipitating factors are unreasonable expectations, especially the young people watching the porn videos, reading the novels. These people think that sex lasts for a long time and erection lasts for a big size of the penis. They don't know that these videos are morphed. They don't know that these are edited, and this can result in unreasonable expectations, resulting in erectile dysfunction. And occasional random failure in sex is quite normal. So people who have occasional random failure, they are worried that they're going to become impotent permanently. And discord in relationship naturally reflects marital relationship affects sexual relation, and sexual relationship affect marital relationship. And infidelity is another one, which is a major cause, and reaction to organic illness. Then maintaining factors, again, performance anxiety, especially in the young people, they have a performance anxiety. They are worried whether they can do the sex, whether they will be a failure, that they have a small penis, that they have a masturbatory practice. All these things will result in the performance anxiety. Then guilt about it, poor communication, loss of attraction between partners, and impaired self-image. And as I was mentioning, myth is defined as one which is not a fact, but popularly accepted. Today you take Anandaya's corona medication is something a myth. And there is the people going on, 30,000 people rushing to small village of Krishnapatnam in Andhra Pradesh. Again, it's a myth. Now, 2 days later, it proves as a myth. The man should be the sexual leader. A woman should not initiate sex. Men should not express their emotions. A man should always have sex when her partner makes sexual approaches. All physical contact must lead to sex, and good sex leads to wild orgasm. All these are not facts. They are only myths. This is the dangers of masturbation in a right-handed individual, of course. And the commonest one, DOT syndrome, and 1 drop of sperm is equal to 30 drops of blood. That is a popular misconception among a lot of people, and they feel because they have masturbated, they have lost sperm during the night, they become weak. And the man feels like having sex at any time. Sex is equal to intercourse. Sex happens automatically. A respectable woman should not enjoy too much sex and should certainly never masturbate. There must be something wrong with the relationship if sex is not good. And regarding formation of sperm, which I discussed. So mainly they feel that the man should be ready and he should not have emotions. And if he refuses sex to his partner, it should not be taken as an offense by the partner. Because of his mood or some other reason, he might be not interested, and that refusal on a particular moment should not be considered as a rebuttal by the other partner. And other things are masturbation is wrong. Even today, with people who have married, having children, they come to me and say occasionally that, sir, I have problem, sexual problem. I was masturbating 10 years back. Do you think that is responsible for the present problem? That guilt about masturbation is widely prevalent, not only in rural, but also in urban and low economical status, educational status, highly educated people. There were doctors who have come to me and asked and told that they are worried about their masturbatory practice. Probably it is responsible for their present erectile dysfunction. About the size of the penis, again, these videos, morph videos, grafting the things and showing that penis is very big, and that results in a lot of shyness among these people. And circumcision, people feel that circumcision increases the sexual performance, but it's not true. And bending of the penis And most important thing from our point of view is vasectomy and tubectomy decreases sexual potency. This is widely prevalent. And especially even if the male is ready to go and have vasectomy, the life partner would discourage him with the misconception that vasectomy might lead the person for impotence or decreased erection. That is why in our country, if you take the number of vasectomies versus tubectomies, vasectomies are 50 times more than tubectomies. The main reason is because they are afraid that they might become sexually impotent. And the biggest organ of sex in the body is brain, the one central brain where which through all the hormones, regulations, emotions, everything are responsible. And it is not necessary that Mr. College is sexually going to be highly potent. He can be impotent or having decreased erection for some other reason. So physical capability or physical build, it need not necessarily go with the impotency. And this is a sweet potato grown in North America. If you have some other misconception, it is not so. And as I was mentioning, the male has always a guilt or a fear that his penis is not normal or is small and very much afraid about it, which can lead to a lot of sexual problems. And just storing the abnormal sexuality and sexual dysfunctions in DSM-3, sexual desire disorder, arousal disorder, orgasmic disorder, pain disorder, dysfunction due to general medical conditions and substances, including sexual dysfunction and sexual dysfunction not specified. But here, as I mentioned, in view of the time, and it is not possible to cover the entire spectrum of sexual problems, we are only discussing about erectile dysfunction and PME. Erectile dysfunction is the inability to attain and maintain penile erection sufficient for satisfactory sexual performance. So that is most important. If the both partners are satisfied, then you don't call it as an erectile dysfunction, even if there is a dysfunction. And it is divided into three types: minimal erectile, moderate erectile, and complete erectile dysfunction. Minimal, occasionally having erectile dysfunction. Moderate, sometimes he is able to perform normally, but complete ED, never able to get an erection sufficient for sexual intercourse. And classification, already psychogenic, organic, and combined. And psychogenic interference with psychogenic aspect of erection usually has an abrupt onset, more likely in younger men, inadequate interpersonal relationships, prior sexual abuse, marital discord, performance anxiety are responsible. While organic, it interferes with reflexogenic action, gradual in onset, more in older women, medical conditions, structural abnormalities, medications, especially antihypertensives like propranolol is very much implicated, and the furosemide diuretic is also implicated in these things and may also coexist with psychogenic disorders. So that both can be combined. As little as 10% of erectile dysfunction is based purely on psychogenic, and distinction between organic and psychogenic is nebulous and often not relevant to the management because they are combinedly present. And what are the physiological basis for erectile dysfunction? Vascular component, arterial, atherosclerosis, diabetes, hypertension, peripheral vascular disease, venous drainage channels lacking, and neurological component, damage to sensory pathways, trauma, surgery, and in our country, the common condition is diabetes, which is associated with neurological cause of erectile dysfunction. And there are studies from West where 30 million American men have ED of all severities, and every year 6 lakhs cases being added. And the hallmark study is Massachusetts male aging study, which shows the overall prevalence of erectile dysfunction. 48% didn't have erectile dysfunction, while 52% had erectile dysfunction of varying categories like mild being 7, moderate being 25, and complete being 10%. And on the right side, you can see as the age advances, the erectile dysfunction is increased. Not only the erectile dysfunction has increased, but also moderate ED and complete ED is more. Risk factors for erectile dysfunction are hypertension, diabetes, renal disease, neurological disease, depression, low levels of HDL and high levels of LDL, nicotine, excessive alcohol consumption. And the major causes, endocrine disorder, diabetes mellitus is the major one, followed by radical surgery, endocrine disorders, multiple sclerosis, and spinal cord injury. And drugs associated with erectile dysfunction. Again, please, postgraduates, please remember, this is very important when you are taking the history, whether iatrogenic, whether the drugs that have been prescribed by another physician for his physical problem is responsible for his erectile dysfunction. So you have to inquire whether patient is taking alcohol, estrogens, anti-androgens, H2 receptor blockers, ketoconazole, antidepressants, marijuana, antihypertensives, narcotics, beta blockers. Propranolol is very much implicated. Psychotropics, nicotine, cocaine, spironolactone, lipid-lowering agents, statins have been very much implicated. NSAIDs, cytotoxic drugs, and diuretics. And other conditions like surgery, prostate surgery or urethral surgery, ileostomy, coleostomy, and other extensive surgical procedures of the abdomen and pelvis. Trauma to the genitals and pelvic area like pelvic fractures, bicyclic accidents, and spinal cord injuries. Local disorders to the penis like Peyronie's disease and priapism, and hormonal factors like hypogonadism, hyperprolactinemia, hypothyroidism. With thyroid, in fact, both hypo as well as hyperthyroidism have been implicated in erectile dysfunction and adrenal disorders. Why is identification of erectile dysfunction important? It is not only related to the sexual problem. You can see when I have presented these slides, the ED and cardiovascular disease risk factors are majority are common like hypertension, diabetes, dyslipidemia, depression, smoking, obesity, and sedentary lifestyle. There is a wealth of compelling evidence that erectile dysfunction is a risk factor for the cardiac problems. And it may be the sentinel symptom of silent myocardial ischemia. It can be a predictor of subsequent cardiac events, including death in men who are otherwise asymptomatic from a cardiac perspective. Suppose you have a person who is diagnosed as erectile dysfunction, you have to also look for cardiac status. Get all the investigations done from the cardiac side, refer to the cardiologist, because it is very silent and ED is an early cry for help. Penile vascular bed is unique with smaller vessels feeding it, and ED can manifest before other cardiovascular symptoms, but it can be silent to the healthcare provider. And it is a window to the cardiovascular status. You see the heart status through the penis. That is how it is described. And 57% of the men in one study had bypass surgery prior to erectile dysfunction. 64% of the men in one study hospitalized for myocardial infarction experienced prior ED. Majority of ED is linked to vascular disease, and ED could be an indicator of systemic atherosclerosis or early warning of MI or stroke. And one of the landmark studies is about Thompson, who has concluded ED was cited as an independent risk factor for subsequent cardiovascular involvement at the same or greater magnitude, family history of premature cardiac problem, coronary artery disease problem, smoking, hypercholesteremia, and ED should be considered to be an early predictor, and prompt assessment should lead to cardiovascular assessment also. That is the reason why we are more worried about ED, and any ED case, you should make it cardiac assessment. And just few minutes about premature ejaculation. Men recurrently achieves orgasm and ejaculates before he wishes to do so. And 40% of men treated for sexual arousal disorders have premature ejaculation. And as I already mentioned, erectile dysfunction with premature ejaculation, you should think more in terms of a functional one, and erectile dysfunction with a retarded ejaculation, you should think in terms of an organic ED. And difficulty in ejaculatory control may be associated with anxiety regarding the sex act. always or nearly always ejaculate within 1 minute of penetration. The other definition is if he ejaculates within 1 minute of penetration, we can call it as premature ejaculation, and unable to delay ejaculation during intercourse for majority of the time or almost all of the time, and feels distressed and frustrated and to tend to avoid sexual intimacy. So all this waiting is over in 30 seconds. And men classified premature ejaculation mainly poor control over ejaculation, 32%, low satisfaction with the intercourse, low satisfaction with the relationship, low interest in actually having intercourse, difficulty in arousal, difficulty in relaxation during intercourse. Classification of PME, lifelong PME, that is, they have never attained successful ejaculation, and acquired is secondary, and generally premature ejaculation is one of the easiest disorder, and the therapist will be highly successful in managing the premature ejaculation rather than the erectile dysfunction. And the psychological factors are sexual guilt, interpersonal hypersensitivity, perfectionism, and unrealistic expectations about sexual performance, and negative cultural conditioning, depression, and worrying about PME. And men who are anxious about obtaining or maintaining an erection during intercourse might form a pattern of rushing to ejaculate, which can be difficult. That is, if the person is worried that he might be a failure and he might have erectile dysfunction, he would like to rush and ejaculate early. That results in PME, and it results in relationship problems and anxiety. The hormonal causes, low serotonin or dopamine level, oxytocin, prolactin, TSH or LH, hypersensitivity of 5-HT receptors, and hypersensitivity of 5-HT1A receptors. Prostatitis, erythritis, surgeries done on perineum, urethra, and prostate can also result in premature ejaculation. And this results in turn in stress and anxiety and relationship problems. Occasionally, it can result in problems of infertility also. And I thank the Secretary, President, and Executive, and all the members who have joined, Lokesh Reddy sir, for giving me this opportunity, and my profuse apologies for net problems on 2 occasions. I'm very sorry for the thing. And now I hand it over to the chairperson. Thank you very much. Thanks for everything.
Thank you very much, Dr. Suresh Kumar. Very nice presentation. You brought up a lot of things. There are a few more advancements related to PE and ED in the current classification and all that. We'll try to look into if the questions, how they come actually, right? I have now the pleasure of inviting Dr. Vamshi Krishna. I think after that, Suresh Kumar would be available for question answers and all the things.